Hello there, and welcome to an extra spooky what if for this month of October. Now, you may have looked at the title and thought this idea ridiculous, but I assure you this is possible within the world of Dragon Ball, with only slight tweaks. But first, we'll have to go back, all the way back to the fortune teller Baba Saga and the first round of her tournament, as we take a look at what if Krillin became a vampire. For those who haven't watched Dragon Ball, basically they want Baba to tell them where the last Dragon Ball is, but they don't have the money to pay her, so instead they agree to face her 5 warriors. The first round is Krillin versus Fangs the Vampire, and like in the original, Fangs bites Krillin, drinks his blood, and then while he's woozy from blood loss, he knocks Krillin off the stage. In the original timeline, Krillin recovers pretty quickly, and is more or less fine afterwards, but this time things are a little different. He just felt off, not himself. Well, he felt alright, but something was different. He'd put it aside for now and just focus on watching the rest of the tournament, which goes as it always does. Somehow, Upa and Poir manage to beat Fang, and then Yamcha takes on the Invisible Man and bandages the mummy. Yamcha loses to Bandages, who then loses to Goku, after which Goku takes on Spike the Devilman and Grandpa Gohan. Once the tournament is over and Bora is revived, Goku goes to train by himself by traveling the world for a few years, while Krillin goes to train with Yamcha and Roshi. Krillin would notice things were a little different. For one, he was far stronger and faster than he had been before the tournament, and suddenly he hated garlic. Not to mention he was looking a lot paler recently, and everything sounded weird. He started to find the sun far too bright, as well as struggling to sleep at night. This was all accompanied by a constant thirst that he just couldn't seem to sate. One night, while unable to sleep once again, he would find himself just watching Yamcha sleep. He wasn't sure what he was doing, but before he could inch any closer, Baba would appear beside him.
There's a sound that you hear your entire life. You learn to ignore it, but right now you're not hearing it.
Krillin would jump backwards since she'd snuck up on him.
You don't have a heartbeat anymore. I thought this might be the case. I really need to give Fang a talking to. He can't just go around infecting people.
Infected? You mean I'm a vampire?
Of course you are. I thought that was obvious.
But I don't want to be a vampire.
Well, tough. There's no cure. It's not so bad. I'm sure you've already noticed you're stronger, and you won't have to worry about getting older.
I'm stuck as a kid forever? How am I supposed to get a girlfriend?
You won't be a kid forever. You'll age into adulthood and then you'll stop. The curse wants you as strong as you can be, so the body of a kid isn't gonna cut it.
Even then, I don't want to be a monster.
You aren't. Nothing is inherently evil. I'm sure you could find ways of getting blood that don't involve attacking people. Most hospitals have spare blood for transfusions and such. I don't mind teaching you how to live as a vampire, since it's kind of my fault.
Baba would take Krillin back to her tournament stage before talking him through what it meant to be a vampire, as well as giving him a blood pack which she had stolen from Fang. He was initially hesitant to drink the blood, but accepted that he had to. First, weaknesses. He had to watch out for garlic, fire, religious imagery, salt, stakes, silver, and while sunlight wouldn't kill him, it did weaken him. As for strengths, he was now stronger, faster, more durable, his senses were advanced, he could turn into a bat, useful for now since flying is pretty rare in early Dragon Ball. He'd also find himself more powerful during nighttime. Supposedly moonlight would strengthen him as well, but of course Roshi had destroyed the moon. He would also recover from injuries a little quicker. Broken bones would heal in a few hours, but he couldn't regenerate limbs or anything. He could speed up the progress by drinking blood. He wouldn't die of old age, but he could still be killed. These abilities are mainly from Toriyama's works, as well as just a few from vampire folklore.
And hey, if in a year you find yourself wanting to be human again, I'm sure that Bulma girl could help you find the Dragon Balls.
So, no matter what, he was stuck like this for at least a year. Once Baba had explained everything she thought it important for him to know, she would take him back to Kame House, leaving him with a letter to explain the situation to Roshi in the morning. Roshi would read the letter before simply deciding to carry on training as normal. Krillin was surprised to realize Roshi wasn't treating him any differently than he had. When Bulma came to visit Yamcha, they'd fill her in, who was initially freaked out but eventually decided to assist Krillin in legally acquiring blood he could drink. Thankfully, he didn't need much, just a little every now and then would keep him going. He would quickly get used to it. Honestly, he probably wouldn't mind staying like this. He even saw some upside to his condition, but there were still a few things that bugged him. A big one was how well Roshi took the news, and eventually he came out and asked him if it bothered him.
Krillin, my boy, you may be a vampire, but you're still you. Be you human or vampire, you're still my student, and that won't change no matter what you decide.
He would put a lot of thought into the decision, whether to stay as he was or become human again. For the time being, he would remain as a vampire. He could always change his mind later on, and it wasn't like the Dragon Balls were going anywhere. The 3 years of training would pass, and Roshi, Yamcha, Krillin, Bulma, Puar, and Oolong would head to Papaya Islands. Goku was late because Roshi told him he couldn't use the Nimbus during his training and he had to find his own way there. While they were waiting for him, Roshi's old rival Shen would show up with his 2 students Tien and Chaozu. Shen and Roshi just wind up trading insults until Shen leaves. When Goku finally did arrive, he seemed a little surprised by Krillin.
You seem different, Krillin, and you smell weird.
They didn't have time to chat, unfortunately, as they had to sign up for the tournament. Roshi arrives dressed in his Jackie Chun disguise and enters once again. Goku was determined to beat him this time. Like in the original, everyone gets through the preliminary matches without any issue. The first round of the quarterfinals is Tien vs Yamcha. It goes the same as always. Tien wins and then breaks Yamcha's leg for no reason. Jackie Chun defeats Manwolf with ease, and then we move to Krillin vs Chaozu. Krillin is initially weirded out by how Chaozu just glides around without moving his legs. Chaozu would attempt to kick Krillin, but Krillin would catch the attack before retaliating with a punch, sending Chaozu back a ways. They'd fight for a short bit, with Krillin holding the decisive advantage. Chaozu would fly upwards just to try to avoid him. He would fire a series of Dodon rays towards Krillin, who managed to avoid them before deciding to attempt the Kamehameha. This was his first time doing it, but how else was he supposed to hit an opponent that high up? Kamehameha.
Krillin, are you sure you can do that?
Goku would call from the crowd. Chaozu, putting the pieces together, figured this was his first time he'd done this, so he didn't feel the need to dodge. No way he'd get it on the first try, and if he did, he'd have plenty of time to dodge it from up here. At the last second, Krillin would jump upwards. Ha! Krillin fired the blast point blank, sending Chaozu hurtling backwards and out of the ring. Since Krillin is stronger here, this is enough to finish Chaozu off, who was unable to recover before hitting the ground. For match 4, Goku beats Panput, and in match 5, Tien takes on Jackie Chun. The pair have a relatively short but even match where Roshi questions why Tien is working for a man like Shen, and after advising him not to follow the path of evil, he forfeits. Though he concedes to himself that if they kept going, Tien would have won. Finally, we reach Goku vs Krillin. Our next match is Goku vs Krillin. These two young boys train together so they both know how the other fights, meaning this match could go either way. Now, in the original the fight is more or less even, but Goku had the advantage in terms of power, but Krillin managed to keep up due to being the smarter fighter. Although this only got him so far, Goku held back most of the fight because he was enjoying it, but here things are different. Thanks to Krillin's newfound strength, Goku couldn't afford to hold back. Anything less than his best would no doubt cost him the match. Krillin wasn't in denial. He knew he was probably only this strong because he was a vampire now, but he'd still trained as hard as he could and he was stronger than he was, all to close the gap between him and Goku. They would trade blows for a short bit, neither boy giving the other an inch, before Goku leapt into the air. Krillin jumps after him, landing a punch on Goku, sending him to the ground. But Goku recovers quickly and attempts to kick Krillin, who is a sitting duck in the air. Before the kick could connect, however, Krillin would transform into a bat, flying to the side of the kick before landing on the stage and transforming back into Krillin. Tien, who was watching the match, was taken aback. Regardless of who won this, he'd have his work cut out for him in the finals. Incredible! Krillin has evaded Goku's attack by transforming into a bat. It seems his bag of tricks is truly bottomless.
Wow, I didn't know a technique like that existed. How'd you learn that?
Well, Goku, remember when I was bitten by the vampire in Baba's tournament?
Oh yeah.
I still don't know what a vampire is. Krillin would decide to just explain after the match. With that, the fight was back on. Unlike in the original, Krillin doesn't attempt to grab Goku's tail. Since he's closer to Goku's level of strength, he doesn't feel the need to resort to a cheap tactic like that. The fight goes on for almost an hour. It was sunset when they began, and now it was dark out, which meant Krillin grew stronger as night fell. It was a real knockdown, drag-out fight, but Krillin was going to try and end it. Kamehameha. Goku saw what his friend was doing and decided to respond with his own Kamehameha wave. Ha! The two boys let loose the attacks and the energy beams clashed in the middle of the ring. It was too bright to look for most people. The only audience members who could follow the action were Roshi and Tien. And from what Roshi could tell, Krillin was losing. Krillin had gotten stronger. True enough, they were pretty much even when it came to raw power. But when it came down to it, this was Krillin's second time attempting the move. Goku was simply better at it. In spite of his best efforts, Goku's Kamehameha wave would overtake Krillin's, throwing him from the ring. He crashed into the wall before falling to the ground. Krillin is out of bounds! The winner is Goku! The audience would cheer as Goku hopped out the ring, helping Krillin to his feet. You've gotten really tough. I wasn't sure I could win that. Of course, I'm still your rival. I couldn't call myself that if you could beat me easily. Goku and Krillin would fist bump before heading off stage together. On their way back to the group, Krillin would explain to Goku what a vampire was. You have to drink blood? That sounds nasty. Oh, it is, but apparently if I don't, I'll lose it. The two boys would meet back up with the group. Roshi would congratulate both of them, and the next day would be the final. Goku is all rested up from his fight with Krillin, so Goku vs Tien goes as the same as usual. Chaozu tries to help Tien with telekinesis until Tien tells him not to. Eventually, they both end up being thrown from the ring, and Goku uses a Kamehameha to propel himself into Tien. But then Goku is hit by a truck in midair, causing him to land first, meaning Tien won. After the match, Tien would apologize for breaking Yamcha's leg before offering Goku half of the prize money since he's convinced he only won by luck. Goku declines, but Tien insists, so they compromise by having him pay for dinner. And that's where we'll leave things for now. I know this idea is kinda out there, but I personally think it could be entertaining, or at least fun for October. Let me know what you think of this first part. How will Krillin being a vampire affect future events? Leave a comment with any ideas or feedback you may have, and maybe consider subscribing. You may realize my schedule goes Tobble, Future Videl, Goten and Bola, and then Jocko, then back to Tobble. Since Tobble and Future Videl are more or less at the same place right now, this is going between the two, so things aren't too samey. But that's all for now. Have a good day.